Hi everyone. Hey, I've got another art activity for you. I've got this fun astronaut picture that I worked on this week, and I hope you'll have as much fun making it as I did. Um, One of the cool things about this is it looks like it's complicated, but it really isn't. We're going to use a couple of tracers to get us going, but I think you're going to have a lot of fun with it because this part right here, the part of the helmet that would be the glass reflective part, is where you can go in and do a really fun idea that's all your own. Whatever you think your astronaut might be looking at would be reflected off of the helmet. So I want to go ahead and get you started here. I wanted you to see my final copy first, and then we'll get going here on the drawing. So what I did, I went in advance and I traced both my hand for the glove and a circle tracer I used for the helmet. You can see that I've traced this 2 times to go ahead and give me a little bit more to the helmet. I used just a lid to a food container, cottage cheese, but what's most important is you get something that's a close-in size to this. This was around 4 inches, and it ended up being a perfect size. If it's too big, you're not going to have room for some of the details of the spacesuit or the hand. So you want to make sure that you can get something close in size to that. So when you trace your hand, one of the things I recommend is that you kind of tilt your hand a little bit. Remember, if he's waving, we don't want it to look, too stiff. So I tilted my hand a little bit. I do suggest that you do this in pencil first, especially if you're going to go back and trace it with a marker or a pen or something, because that glove is going to be a really thick material because it's protective, and that thick material, we don't want the fingers to look too skinny. Knowing the fingers and the hand is inside a glove, we want those fingers to look a little bit thicker than we might if we were just drawing your hand. So make those nice and thick as you go back after you trace it the first time. And you can see then that I just closed it up with a simple line right there. The only other thing that I'm going to need to do is kind of close that with another line to make it look like there's a little bit more to the glove. And then I can go back and detail that part later. For the helmet, and this is where I really want to get the helmet and the spacesuit going before I detail the glove. After I've kind of centered this on the paper, I need to have space above and below. I'm going to trace that once, slide it down a little bit. It's maybe a little bit more than a pencil width or so, and then I'm going to trace it that second time. So to get started on all the details like this of the parts that are around the helmet, I'm going to go to the 2 sides, and if you think about this kind of like the face of a clock, I would have where my 2 circles meet up would be 9 and 3 if it was a clock face. So I'm going to put a little detail here, just a little oval, and that's kind of like a little hinge for how the helmet opens and closes. And from that point, now that's going to be my starting point for a few more lines. So I'm going to go to my hinge here, and I'm going to try and add one more curve, another layer around what I already traced, and end up over here at my other hinge. And from there, I'm going to come down and I'm going to draw a couple of these straight lines. So from the hinge, I'm going to come down maybe 1.5 inches or so, left side, right side. And then I'm going to draw the lines that are going to make part of this control panel back here. So I'm going to come up to about the top of my bottom circle here, and I'm going to draw a straight line down. This is going to end up being about a pencil width away from my first line. And I'm going to go left side, right side. And then I'm going to finish this off with some angles. So I'm going to go angle left, angle right, and then I'm going to top it off with a horizontal line that connects them. This has given me some nice space in here that if it's big enough, I can do another little detail line in here, and then it ends up making it look sort of 3-dimensional. If I do left side, right side, and another horizontal line. And then this empty space that remains is where I'm going to put some of these buttons. These little control buttons would be squares, circles, maybe some rectangles. I'm going to leave that up to you. Now I need to add these other little controls, which I did find are actually on a NASA spacesuit when I did a little bit of research online. So I'm going to start by putting this rectangle shape on the side. So I'm going to go left rectangle, and then a right rectangle. And it's okay if it even goes off my paper. It's fine. It's not a big deal. I'm going to top it off with a little semicircle on the top. And then this rectangle here is where you can add some more controls. Again, circles or squares, whatever you think might fit. And then I also want to then add another little line on this side because I went up right to the edge on this side of my spacesuit. Here I'm going to go to the corner and I'm going to make a little curve because that's a little bit more of a continuation of what the astronaut has on his back. Now I'm going to add the lines that are actually going to make the shoulder of the spacesuit. So I'm going to add a curve on that side and a curve here. You'll notice that I did not go all the way to the helmet because I'm going to come in now and I'm going to draw a little bit of a line down, and this is going to give me the piece that's actually going to kind of attach the helmet to the rest of the spacesuit. So I'm going to come down straight and straight, and then I'll add one more curve underneath, and now I can come in and see how I want to connect that shoulder piece up to the helmet. So that gives me the majority of the parts that I need for that. You can see I also added, a control panel down here. That was sort of just a simple little rectangle that I divided up into some more shapes that you can add some more controls. If you want, you could add a patch with your name or an American flag or something like that. But you've got the majority of the parts here, with the exception of all the cool buttons and other little details, maybe a few little fold lines, some curves to make it look like it's a bendy, kind of a fabric on the spacesuit. I want to detail the curves of the gloves now, because these little details are what is going to allow that really thick protective glove to be bendable. So just by putting a little curve down here at the base of each of the fingers, that gets me started. It's also going to end up making the fingers look like cylinder shapes, so that they don't look flat. So I'm not going to just fill these with straight lines. I'm going to give these curved lines to imply that round curve that the fingers and gloves would have. One of the things that I did find on my research is that these are actually double lines. So that's kind of a cool thing to add, that you can go back and just add another little double line to each of these, and it makes it a really cool detail there. I did see one more curve that it had when I was looking online, and this kind of helps the hand itself bend. So I'm going to add another little line there. And then you can see it had some straps and some kind of cool gadget. I'm not sure what it actually was, but it looked neat. So you can have some fun with some kind of a detail that you might want to put in there, and maybe a little strap or some buttons or details for that. Okay, so the fun part here then that I really loved was the reflective part. So you can see here, I also did another version that is a planet. I had some fun with some color. I actually found some wrapping paper, and that might be an idea where he's looking at a planet out in space. Here's another one where I drew another astronaut that maybe he was on mission with, and you could draw an astronaut. You could draw a space station or the rocket ship that they're on, or maybe just a whole scene of a bunch of small planets. A lot of possibility. I did choose to cut my astronaut out and add him to another background paper so I wouldn't have to color all this in looking like space. I thought that was kind of a cool effect, and I really only just used newspaper for that. But you could certainly just, if you've got all kinds of art materials at home, you could have some fun with paper, markers, paint. It's up to you. What's most important is that you have fun and that you're being creative. So good luck. I hope you enjoy.